If you didn't see the movie, I'm going to spoiler alert. I'm just going to spoil it for you. If you didn't see the movie, I'll tell you one part about it. Elsa, that was the lady singing, had to hide this power of hers. She spent her whole life hiding the power because she was afraid of it. And it's some kind of mysterious snow-making frozen power. Turns things to ice. And she caused her sister harm when she was little. So she hid herself away, her true self, her whole life. And she didn't just harm herself, she kept herself from her little sister. Her little sister was alone and didn't get to connect to her sister. So it wasn't just that she held herself back, but she actually wasn't present for someone who really needed her. So metaphysically, what is Elsa letting go of? I'm going to tell you she's letting go of blocks, fear-based thoughts. So I want to ask y'all, I'm going to ask this question a couple times during this talk. Is there anything that you have felt that you had to hide from the world? And usually the things we want to hide from the world are not like super cool powers, like making ice castles and making our dress all blue, right? Usually the things we want to hide from the world are different. They're, more like our fears. There are fears about ourselves, but they're not even remotely pretty, like crystallized fractals, are they? Because when we want to hide it, it's something we really have put out of ourselves. And here's the next question I'm going to ask. Could it be used for good instead of ill? Could whatever you want to hide be used for good instead of ill? I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One of them is from Anne Lamott. Anne Lamott is a writer. She writes humorously and kindly about our spiritual journey. She writes about the raw and the tender places that are in each of us. And instead of hiding her vulnerability and imperfection, she writes about what is real. And when she writes about what is real in a very nitty-gritty way, in a loving, kind way, it heals us. So I'm going to read something that she just posted on Facebook. This is the Anne Patricia Lamott anti-diet. We need to talk. I know you are planning to start a diet on Thursday, January 1st. I used to start diets too. I hated to mention them to my then therapist. She would say cheerfully, "Oh, that's great, honey. How much weight are you hoping to gain?" I got rid of her sorry you-know-what. No one talks to me that way. Well, okay, maybe it was 10 years later after she had helped lead me back home to myself, to radical self-care, to friendship with my own heart, to a jungly glade that had always existed deep inside me, to mostly healthy eating, but that I'd avoided all those years by achieving, dieting, binging, people-pleasing, multitasking, and so on. Now when I decide to go on a diet, I say to myself, "Great, honey, how much weight are you hoping to gain?" I was able to successfully put on weight during my last book tour by eating room service meals in a godly trance in 13 different cities. So that was exhilarating, as I may have mentioned several hundred times that I have had the tiniest struggle with food and body image for the last, lifetime. Hardly worth mentioning. And then after the book tour, I accidentally forgot to starve myself in December, or to go back to the gym, which I've been meaning to do since I had a child 24 years ago. So I am about 5 pounds up. But thankfully, I do not currently have a scale because, as I've said before, getting on a scale is like asking Dick Cheney to give you a sense of your own self-worth every morning. She wrote it. I can still get my jeans on for one reason. I wear forgiving pants. The world is too hard as it is without letting your pants have an opinion on how you are doing. I struggle with enough esteem issues without letting my jeans get in on the act, volunteering random thoughts about my, you know what. By the same token, it feels great to be healthy. It's really okay to have or to pray for an awakening around your body. It's okay to stop hitting the snooze button and to pay attention to what makes you feel great about yourself, one meal at a time. Horribly, it's yet another inside job. If you are not okay with yourself at 185 pounds, you will not be okay at 150 pounds or even 135 pounds. The self-respect and peace of mind you long for is not out there. It's within. I hate that. I resent that more than I can say, but it's true. Maybe some of us can try to eat a bit less and walk a bit more and make sure to wear pants that do not hurt our thighs or our feelings. Drinking more water is the solution to all problems. It's like she read my mind. I'll leave you with this. I've helped some of the women at my church get healthy by suggesting they prepare each meal as if they had asked our beloved pastor to lunch or dinner. They wouldn't say, "Here, Pastor, let's eat standing up in the kitchen. This tube of barbecue Pringles is all for you. I have my own." No, they'd get out the pretty dishes and arrange wonderful food on the plates and set one plate before Veronica at the table. A plate filled with love, pride, and connection. That's what we have longed for our whole lives and get to create now or on January 1st. Wow. And God bless you all real good, as my pastor always says. Now you can see why I love Anne Lamott. And I believe that that's what she did, was she took something that she wanted to hide, her struggle with weight, her insecurities, and she used it for good instead of ill. Instead of beating herself up with it or judging all the other people in the room, she went right into it with gentleness and clear seeing and love and support from therapists and friends, and writes about it and brings it to us so it is used for good and healing in the world. Now, I want to give a few examples that might broaden this. Not every single person has a weight thing. Maybe 90% of us, but not every single person. So I wanted to think up a few more examples. Some that might even resonate with the other gender. I have two stories. One is Jack Kornfield. Now, Jack Kornfield is the famous American Buddhist teacher. And years ago, like in 1967, he went to Thailand and he became a Buddhist monk. And he studied, I think first he was in the Peace Corps, and then he studied Buddhism, and then he became a monk. Then he came back to the States after years of studying. And he tells a pretty good story about him in New York, where he was waiting for his sister in like a spa, like Elizabeth Arden or something, fancy spa. He's waiting for his sister to meet her for lunch, and he just couldn't deal with it, and he crossed his legs and started meditating, and all the women started coming around and look, what is this guy do? Was meditating cross-legged in the waiting room with Elizabeth Arden. And there was something about that experience that he got that his framework in Thailand, being in a monastery, wasn't working in life in New York, in the United States, that he wanted to live. He wanted to live that life. He wanted to be a whole person. So he wasn't able to cope with daily life, and what he learned to meditate wasn't helping him. So instead, he had to figure out a new way, or he had to figure out his way into Buddhism in America. And the way he figured out was, he calls it a path with heart. Not unlike completely like everything I'm talking about today. Completely about everything we talk about in Unity. Very much like that. About opening your heart, whatever the language is, whether you are the Christ, whether you are the Buddha. It's about opening your heart and loving what is in the moment. And that's the path that Jack Kornfield found. And he used his struggle and wrote about it and used it for good instead of ill. He could have just hidden it away. He could have gone back to the monastery. He could have forgotten everything. A lot of people do that. They go on a spiritual path. It doesn't work in day-to-day life. And then, well, forget that. It doesn't work. I'm just going to go back to whatever I did before. But instead, he melded the two. He kept being present in the moment and used it for good for others and connection. And then I thought of another person who, in my mind, and this is really my projection of his story. I've read some of what he's written, and it's Jimmy Carter. I was just thinking about Jimmy Carter. Because what do you do when you've been president and you lose the election? Like, does that feel like failure if you're a guy? I think it does. And I think that failure, if you're a woman, but also if you're a man, is the big sucky bite, okay? Failure at your career, any kind of perceived failure, that is the thing that you want to hide at all costs. I know that was true for my dad. I know that is true for my brothers and most of my guy friends. That the thought that you were not successful in your life is the thing that bites at you the most. It's, the more than the squirrels, it's actual alligators biting you. So it hurts, and you want to hide that. And I thought, well, man, what about Jimmy Carter after he lost that election? What did he do? Well, what is he known for now? Think about it. I mean, he's known as one of the greatest humanitarians who's still living today. One of the things we all know about him is that he started volunteering for Habitat for Humanity. He made that a big concern. He actually won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. He really switched. Like, he got out of politics per se, the kind where you have to get elected. He got out of that direct politics. And I won't say he wasn't working. He definitely worked for the greater good in a different way, in a larger way, I would say. And actually keeping in, I would say his vision got broader, that instead of, he went from the state he was the governor of to the president of the United States to a citizen of the world, helping the world and being a wonderful example of a humanitarian. I believe that he took the pain of losing, and he didn't hide. He didn't hide, and he didn't go away, or he didn't go back to the same thing either. He turned to something new and different. So now I want to ask you again. I want you to think about. I'm going to lead us in a little bit of a closed eyes meditation. So just take a breath and close your eyes for a minute. And let's see what happens across the screen when I ask this question. What am I hiding right now? What do I want to hide? What do I not want anyone to see because it will cause harm? If nothing popped into your head, awesome. If something did, well, just think, how can I use this for good instead of ill? How could I use this for good instead of ill? And then, here's the next part of this meditation. This is the most important part. God, heal my fear-based thoughts. Heal the blocks that I'm holding on to. I'm giving it over to you. I don't have to do anything. Whatever you have brought into my mind, I'm just throwing it back on you. I am the willing person here, and I am throwing these fears and these blocks onto your strong hands. I don't have to do it because I know you will do it for me. So open your eyes and think about the song one more time. Let it go. Let it go. And when I entitled this talk today, I called it Let It Go, Go, Go. Because one point I wanted to pound into the ground, because I love to pound points into the ground, is that you're not going to just let it go once. Like that time just now in our meditation when we said, God, you take it. You're going to have to let it go more than once. Because the fears that we have spent our whole life with, either hiding from or listening to, those fears and those blocks are kind of like whack-a-mole. You bang them or let them go, and they pop right back. So all of us are going to remember this week, because this is the week where we make New Year's resolutions, if we want to. We're going to remember that on our spiritual journey, we're going to take responsibility for seeing clearly, for holding gentleness in our heart for ourselves and for others, for keeping on, and letting go of our frozen identity over and over again. And if you have to sing that song again, just don't sing it around Chris. That's because he teaches little girls to sing that song, and he's heard it a lot. But if you have to sing the song again, letting go, you can call me up. We'll put it on the screen. We'll sing it together. We'll dance around like fools, okay? Let's take an offering for unity. So I invite you to take your tithe and your love offering and get it ready, however you want to bless it and hold it.